you check the children.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And you got Jaime and Fuego, yeah.
And we are here to do a review of the brand new film from A24, Talk to Me.
Indeed.
Now, a couple things we want to hit on at the very beginning. We do know that there is a massive shift in the Hollywood situation going on right now. The WGA and SAG and AFTRA have joined forces in the strike situation. Somehow the DGA got everything they wanted. Surprise, surprise. But the Writers Guild has been in this situation for, I think at this point as we record this, over 73 days.
It's creeping close to 3 months now. Yeah.
Right. And the SAG actors just joined the picket line last week as we record this. There has been some questions as far as people like ourselves that are quote-unquote, influencers or up-and-coming influencers. We obviously don't have the influence that some of the larger channels on YouTube have, but that is generally the moniker for YouTubers that make it big. YouTubers, TikTokers, any kind of social media people that cover this kind of thing is under scrutiny right now. Now, one of the things that I had a question about was whether or not we could even cover this film, because it is new material, and I wanted to make sure it wasn't struck material. Apparently, this is not part of a struck company, because this is something that A24 acquired out of Australia. So, yeah, this is not a film made by the U.S. production companies, so I think we're in the clear there. But nonetheless, this is simply a review. This is not something we have been paid to promote.
Exactly.
They have
never
not
received any money from a studio ever to promote something.
Nope.
We have only critiqued over all these years. So.
Exactly. The most we've gotten are like care packages from certain films like Fresh or something like that. And in that case, in any of those cases, we're still very honest about the films. So it's not like these care packages sway our opinions or anything like that. But yes, this is not one of those situations where we are scabbing or anything like that. I do have intentions on joining the WGA. I'm hoping that Dylan's New Nightmare can be a sort of stepstone to being able to do that. So the last thing I want to do is go against any of the unions or any of the people that are striking, because everyone deserves a living wage in Hollywood, more so than just the upper echelon of all of these production companies that walk away with $25 to $50 million a year. Like, someone did the breakdown where they put out how much money each of the big studios would actually lose on an annual basis to give the writers and actors what they're asking for. And it really was, while it was millions of dollars per company, it was still a pittance when you count it against what they actually make on an annual basis. So it's a crazy situation, and we just want to be sure that we are doing our utmost. So there will likely not be a lot of trailer reactions in the very near future, although there are a lot of trailers we could react to. That is technically promotion for upcoming films. So I don't know. We have to talk about that more and see if it makes sense. We're not being paid to promote anything. We're just literally reacting to trailers, whether it be good or bad.
And that was specifically being paid promotionally to cover something is what SAG AFTRA in their
yes and no. Like, even if you're not being paid, if you promote new movies that are being struck, people will remember that when you try and apply for membership in the WGA or SAG, and that's what I don't want to have happen. I very much want to be a member of the WGA, and I don't want them to be able to point to anything and be like, no, you scabbed, you know what I mean? So that's been a concern for us, but I believe we've arrived at a place where Talk to Me would not be considered scabbing if we just do a review. We're not promoting the film, we weren't paid to promote the film, we're just reviewing the film that we just saw. Now, I will say, in the interest of full disclosure, we didn't pay for this. This was an advanced screening that we were invited to as press. So we were invited to see the movie by the studio, by the people at A24 and Allied. So this is not something we paid for, but it is something we went and watched and something we feel that we can review without being under the auspices of being paid to promote the film. Because we could very well hate this film as much as we might like this film. So that's where it gets a little sticky. But I will say that we're going to go ahead and put out this review, and we'll see what happens. I am open to everyone's thoughts on the matter, but as of right now, we are not being paid to do this. We are simply giving our thoughts on movies that we are watching.
And I think one of the biggest and most important things for me to at least speak personally for is that I am 100% supportive of SAG-AFTRA and the WGA.
100%.
And,
all the way. 150%.
This big tyrannical sort of situation that is going down with the fact that, we haven't even had any adjustments since 1980 when the last time that both of them were on strike. Or was it 1960?
1960 they were both on strike.
Yeah, They were both on strike in 60, and then I think they were a bit... In any event,
there was another strike in 80, though. Yes,
in 80, yeah, and then the actors themselves.
In 2008, I believe.
Yeah. There's been various strikes over the years, but the big selling, without getting too into it, because we're going to make a whole video about this. We know that the advent of streaming, especially the advent of AI and taking away jobs, likenesses of background actors. There's a lot of different things that just seem mind-boggling that these studio heads. I forget the acronym of them, but in any event, yes, we most definitely, or at least
it's like the ATTTMP or something like that. Yeah, something like that.
It's like the Association of Producers of it. In any event, I most definitely I am here to critique a film, and I am not here to promote, for said studio that A24 is their own. I don't know if they have like specific bigger level studio affiliations. That's not something
I don't believe so. I believe they are considered an independent studio, and I will say that they did just come out in the last 2 days and say that certain productions are greenlit to continue working, including 2 A24 movies. So I don't know if that means that A24 is outside of this strike system or not, but again, we are not paid for this. This is simply our opinions on a brand new movie.
Yep. So let's get on it, man.
Indeed. I'm gonna make sure that we put a skip to this point to get to our review. Mm-hmm. But yeah, let's talk about Talk to Me, because
talk to me, boy.
This is a movie that had a lot to live up to. There was a lot of hubbub about this film. Coming out of various film festivals where it did very well and garnered a lot of attention. We actually heard someone, friend of the channel, Victor from Cult Classics here locally. He saw it back in March, and he decided to come to this screening because he's like, I just want to see if they changed anything, because this was my favorite horror movie of the year. So like, even as we're sitting there waiting for the movie to start, we're hearing propaganda from around us.
The buzzing,
You know what I mean? And I only call it propaganda out of jest. I'm not saying he was paid to push this or anything. It just, there's something that Fuego and I refer to a lot on this channel, which is called the burden of expectation.
Hashtag.
And that is something that I was concerned about, like, oh my God, I've heard nothing but great things. I'm so excited about this. Not Fuego, but I know Robert and I reacted to at least 2 of the trailers on the channel, if not 3, and they were fantastic trailers. And I was like, oh my God, if this movie can live up to what these trailers are, it's going to be incredible. And then we kept hearing, oh my God, this movie's incredible. And so we're sitting there and I'm like, can this movie really be incredible? Because almost every time when this happens, I'm disappointed, or I'm like, meh. I was very worried about the meh. Let me say, after watching the movie, it was anything but meh. It was absolutely the most engaging and unique story within a horror film that I have seen in many, many years. Now, it's not to say it's altogether original. There's aspects here and there that we've seen before, but
there are a few that come to mind for me.
Right,
but
the general overall story was unique and like something that I got totally into, and I could not guess where it was going to go. And that, my God, if there were a Bible of what a horror movie should try and do, that is a lot of the big check marks for me, as far as not coming off as rote or something we've seen a million times, in other words. And this film achieved so many things beyond just that. How about for you?
Yeah, I was pretty impressed with this, man. I mean, even though it did have echoes of a few very noteworthy things that we've covered over the last number of years that I've been doing this stuff with you, I think at this point it's where you take a few sprinkles here and there from different things that have been very influential, and you make an amalgamation, and that's how you truly can do something unique. And this film was unique, and I'm right there with you. I'm sure there will be people who will say, oh yeah, I predicted this or that or whatever, but dude, I didn't know what was going to happen in the third act of this film, and that was one of the most satisfying.
I didn't know who was lying. I didn't know, you know what I mean?
And that's the thing. There's a lot of interesting aspects of, perception and sincerity, and how questionable a lot of things are from a lot of different camps and entities, and because we know this deals with spirits, it's in the trailers and everything. And so what type of spirits are we talking? Dead people or demons or whatever. And one thing that I really loved about this movie, and it's great when I have because I had to come back here because I had some schoolwork to do, and before we could film this review, so that's why we're doing this remotely. But there's something really great to where I can have a long drive home, like 40 something minutes, to turn it over in my head and really think about it. And this was a film that I believe respected its audience by not explaining everything to them. There is things that are left to interpretation about motivation, like I was just mentioning, and performances are great. Now, I
loved the follow through. Yeah. I mean, essentially what I mean is I love the ending, but I love the follow through. Yeah. Like, no movie goes for it like this does, you know what I mean? That often.
Far between, yeah.
You know what I mean? And you have to earn this type of thing, like, and they did so good. Again, we're not going to spoil anything about this film because, my God, does it deserve to be watched without any kind of spoilers? But yeah, okay. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, dude, you're good. And that's why I was really glad that I caught one trailer. I think before, I can't remember what film it was, where I was at an AMC, in between to like whenever I can actually get out to a movie. But yeah, that's when I saw it, and I was just like, that looks about as good as what the buzz has said. And yeah, man, it for the most part lived up to the hype. And the fact that this was a feature debut of these two brothers
who, by the way, started out making YouTube videos about a murderous Ronald McDonald.
And even before that they were filming backyard wrestling. And so these kids have been kids, I shouldn't even use the term like that, but they've been
this kid Tim Miller
honing, yeah, exactly. Kevin Smith. But yeah, sharpening their teeth, honing their craft for so long. And they have two other things potentially in the pipeline, one guaranteed, and there's discussion.
Oh, anything they want after this is guaranteed.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Are they Aussie?
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yep, they are Aussies, yeah. And so the bidding war alone, that happened at Sundance, where it had no distribution yet, and then apparently Universal almost got it. Eventually went to A24. I don't know.
That's like old school Hollywood shit. That's like what Clerks did. You know what I mean? Like bidding wars type shit.
Make your film outside of the studio system, and then have everybody just I don't know, just drooling. Just so ferocious to acquire or whatever. And
I have plans.
Yeah, so I'm well aware of these things. But yeah, this impressed me quite a bit, and I'm trying not to hype it too much where people go in a similar situation to us.
But we were happy ultimately, so I don't mind. I don't think it's a bad thing that people go in with high expectations.
Too much, man. Everybody is just going to be like, it didn't live up, and so although in a lot of ways it did, man.
There's always going to be contrarians when it comes to A24.
It wasn't as
but
good.
I will say this is one of my top 5, if not top 3, A24 movies. Period.
And it didn't feel like your typical A24 in a lot of ways.
No.
And, I mean, we'll get into it with the story.
It did feel It didn't feel entirely apart from the Wanaverse, if there was such a thing, though.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, especially, and yet without really veering into the exceedingly silly, like with Malignant and even points in the Insidious franchise where they kind of ham it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. I do feel like this film took itself pretty seriously, but yet without being up its own ass, if that sort of crass terminology makes
No,
sense.
no, 100%. Well, a lot of A24 is up its own ass.
And
I'll back you up.
That's why I said it, because of the fact
I'll
that
back you
there's
up on that.
holier than thou sort of mentality.
No, this is much more of a God. Like, and I don't want to say that this movie's like talking to a audience that isn't as highbrow or whatever. This to me, I would consider almost highbrow. What do you call it? Highbrow paranormal horror.
Yeah.
Like, this is the closest thing you could call that. You know what I mean? Hereditary was highbrow horror as well.
From Black, which we
From Black,
talked about
very
earlier this
highbrow,
year.
emotional horror. Love that film.
And that's where
This is highbrow paranormal horror to me.
Yeah, and this was another film that similar to From Black and similar to Birth Rebirth, which is about to hit Shudder. Like, there's certain films, like the horror I think that's affected me the most this year is stuff like Talk to Me and the others that we mentioned just now that hit on a really visceral emotional level. And
this one got me on a couple levels.
There's something that happens in this movie without giving it away, and I'm not even going to dance around it, but I felt more upset than I have felt in recent memory seeing something in a horror movie that just really kind of crushed me emotionally. And it sometimes
I'd love to know what it is.
Yeah, well, it's a beat that happens, and it becomes a major. It's something that becomes a major plot point in like the second half of the film without going too much into it.
Yeah, okay. Like the whole personal journey of Mia.
It's what happens to a different character.
Really? Not Mia.
And the reverberation. And it's really a few scenes in particular.
Dude, there was one scene. Okay, I think I might know what you're talking about now. There was one scene that I literally almost had to cover my eyes. I gasped. I covered my mouth.
I think you saw my reaction too. So yeah,
I will say this. This is the first movie since 1997 where there was imagery that felt straight out of hell. And I'm talking about there was a series of images that we saw that felt straight out of Event Horizon's Trip to Hell. That's
where there's something I really want
there's
to
something. Yeah, I can't say there was one thing that happened that killed me. Absolutely, there was one image in this entire trip through hell, so to speak, that we got very, very briefly, and it just crushed me in such a way that I mean, I'll talk to you about it off camera because we can't spoil it, but there was some intensity in this movie that I was fully not expecting. There was so many things that caught me off guard, and I absolutely think that's why this is a stellar horror film.
Yeah.
Why don't you hit on the story for everyone, Fuego, if you can?
So I mean, without getting too into it, the way Fangoria, and it's on the cover of their most recent issue, and in my estimation, there's some spoilery stuff that they have even on the cover, which I kind of am disappointed by, but they're trying to market this thing. So they're about, a bunch of Aussie kids, they mess around with, like the other world, so to speak, where spirits dwell and other things as well. And so, and they get there, it's almost like a, Pandora's box sort of situation.
Right.
And so there is a character by the name of Mia who is played by Sophie Wilde, I believe. And she has lost her mother 2 years prior to when this takes place. She is still guilt-ridden, but she's estranged from her father, and she's living with what seems like, I mean, they don't really go into explicit detail as to why she's there, aside from maybe
she's not estranged necessarily. She just doesn't spend a ton of time with him.
Yeah, she's sleeping at the family that is like her best friends, which is a girl named Jade, that's her age, and then the younger sibling,
Jade's little brother. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly, and their mom. And so, she basically stays over there all the time and sees her father, very intermittently. And there is apparently this game that these, I guess they're siblings. I originally thought one of those characters was of a certain gender, and then I started to realize that they were not, and so and it was based on the antagonistic kind of behavior initially of said character without specifying. But so there's these two siblings that are apparently going around with the arm that we see in all of the promotional material, and they're doing essentially, they're like, hey, do you want to get in touch with a ghost, let it possess you for a second, and then we pull it out. It's almost like doing drugs, the way that all of these kids interact with these situations. They start to get addicted to it. Mia, most notably, because of the fact that she envisions coming into contact with her mom, who died under really just depressing, unfortunate circumstances. It was, well, without spoiling anything, yeah, they don't know, was it intentional death or was it accidental? But yeah, she's not around.
Let's walk that back a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's walk it back,
Yeah, because I don't want to reveal that necessarily.
Okay. So are we okay with her mom is dead though?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just don't say that she connected with her, because that was like, I was like, of course.
Oh, I didn't specify that she connected with her. I just said she.
Well, you alluded to it enough. So yeah, just kind of avoid that.
I mean, in the trailer, doesn't she say mom, and she's like, that was my mom? She says that in the trailer, I think. But,
oh, I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's fair.
Okay. Well, I'll
Let's
still
just
back it up.
yeah. We'll do it. Go a little easy on it.
Okay. So yeah, she gets intrigued by what these two siblings are going around and parties doing, and so she's a little more interested. She has to like coerce Jade and her little brother to actually.
It gets
go
a little
to
more
party.
personal than you at first anticipate.
Yes, exactly. Because she would love to find out some more stuff about her mom's death and just connect with her, as happens with so many people when you abruptly lose a loved one like that.
Yeah, it was a super personal story, and that was engaging throughout. Everyone did a great job acting wise and everything, but story wise, yeah, it's one of those things that is so like it feels gimmicky, right? It feels like there's a gimmick. You grab the hand, you say talk to me, and then you let the thing take you over for a minute. That's not even expressly told in the trailer, but that's basically the gist of what happens. And
come on in.
Yeah, all the like, it's a really interesting setup, and it's just
Simple,
a matter of like,
interesting. Yeah.
How does it get screwed up? And then when it gets screwed up, you're like, God, like for me, I was like, God damn, Jesus Christ, like, oh.
You saw that scene had me wincing, and I was just like,
yeah, it was aggressive. It was aggressive. So I will say that the way the story carried out, hang on, fuck. You take a little pause. I will say that the way the story played out was engaging for me the whole way. It's, it's a personal tale. There's paranormal aspects. I would hesitate to go much farther beyond that, other than to say all of the actors sold everything throughout. Like, there was not a weak actor in the bunch. Yeah. And a lot of them were very young, which can often rather lead to some subpar scenes. But that never happened with this film. Everyone did a wonderful job, and I bought into everything, and it made me sad at times. And at times I was like, oh, the worst just keeps happening. And it's like, I was like getting a little exhausted by it, but only because I was bought into it.
Emotionally, yeah. I will concur, as we've veered into the acting stuff, that Sophia Wilde as the lead in this, she owned it, man. Sophie was great as Mia, and just all of the
great and vulnerable and
and the despair in her eyes in some of these scenes where it just escalates. I have to dance around stuff, and right. as we go into it, but her performance gets just more riveting as the situation escalates. Because hey, when you open up Pandora's box, often it does snowball downhill sort of situation. And I thought the supporting players, her friend Jade, was solid, as was the mom, who I know I've seen.
Yeah, I couldn't pinpoint what we saw her in before, but
yeah, I was like, goodness Lord, I know Miranda Miranda Otto, yeah, obviously a Australian actress who's been in tons of stuff, and I don't want to spend all this time extensive IMDb, so I'm not even gonna try to delve into that. But yes, a familiar face amongst all of these lesser known Aussie kids. That, yeah, not really a weak one in the bunch. Even the like bigger, like bullier type friend of the younger brother, you know, in the bits that he had, you know, solid enough. And so, yeah, it had. I got echoes of It Follows a little bit, as far as just like the
I got a little
vibe
bit
of
of that
the
too,
kids,
yeah.
the camaraderie amongst them, and that's high praise, you know, because even though I had some issues with the third act of It Follows and some other things, the performance of all those kids I thought was stellar, and this is on par, you know, with that 100%.
I really completely agree. It just it caught me off guard how well everyone did in this, and I mean, because certain people had to change how they were acting, you know, depending on what was happening, so to speak. Hang on, sorry, I'm trying to check her. I've seen her so many. The Silence? No? Was it The Silence? Oh, she was fucking one of the ants on Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Oh, okay.
She was Zelda. No wonder I knew her so well.
Now you froze up for a moment, so I'm not exactly sure what happened.
Oh,
like
okay.
I lost all audio and everything.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
We're still recording, but yeah, no.
Okay.
So Miranda Otto was her name, I think you said.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, she was Aunt Zelda on Chilling Adventures of Sabrina for like the 4 years.
Oh.
So
okay.
that's where I knew her from. But yeah, she was awesome. The acting was just incredible. I will say that the filmmaking was top notch. Like, they knew exactly what they were doing with the camera, and they knew what to focus on to make it creepy and unnerving, and as well as highlighting of the actors' strengths all throughout. So filmmaking wise, it was phenomenal. Sound design wise,
yeah, I said, dude, both, like, there was an early scene where I knew that these guys were trying to convey things beyond just, hey, we're going to point a camera at this and that. So there is a early bit of dialogue between Mia and her father, and they kept the focus on Mia the entire time. The father in the background was never in focus.
Right.
And so that totally epitomized the fact that she has tuned him out, you know, and that she is focused on other things, most notably of the internal variety and all the grieving that she's doing. And so, you know, that was one little
it's a very
nuance.
good point.
I love the little tilt, like pivot things that they were doing when you see it in the
following
trailer,
the people as they fall and stuff
out.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool little camera trick there, transitionary wise or whatever.
Dude,
and even,
I've never seen the word "run" be more scary than fucking run.
over and over. Yeah.
That is excuse me, that is in one of the trailers, and it was unnerving as hell.
Yeah, and so for a first feature, man, I mean, you could tell that these guys honed their skills doing other things for years, and you know, this was distributed by the same people in Australia who did the Babadook, so there's a little bit of a pedigree as far as that. Not distributed, but I think produced. So
okay, makes
the
sense.
Team that got the money to these kids or to these up and coming dudes. Keep saying it, this kid Tim Miller. To bring this vision to life, which is, it's a visceral vision. It's a very I like when horror movies leave me with an empty feeling at a lot of different instances, and it really hit me hard, you know, and just made me feel like
it was a very impactful resolution. I will say the same. And I love that they found a new way to end, like, again, I'm not going to say this because I'm not going to spoil it, but they found a new way to have an awesome horror movie ending that I tend to prefer. So I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Without specifying anything. Yeah. And also sound design within
incredible.
This film, dude. Like, I mean, when
there's a lot of use of water, which I really liked.
Throughout, there was something. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the specifics of that. There is one of the early dead things is kind of covered in water, so I'm not sure maybe if there was
Yeah,
a
it's
correlation with
not
that.
quite as
But also
laid
the
out
blood
as
water
you might
down the
want it.
drain
Right,
at one
right.
particular point, and
Yeah.
just even the way that they panned voices and sounds at times throughout the theater, you don't always see enough of that attention to detail in the mix where just the movement of sound. And yes, this is another one with visual effects where you're seeing things in the background. I mean, Juan did that. Some of the other filmmakers have done it, but it's where you do it adeptly and do it incredibly well. And when we do get the chance to see some of these otherworldly beings without specifying, what they are exactly, I was quite impressed with the look, and it was unsettling. It was unnerving.
Very much so. Very much so.
And that's another reason why I wish Fangoria hadn't run with this photo from the film as their cover, because it's something that doesn't happen until later, and I still feel like it was kind of spoilery, the current cover of Fangoria.
Oh, that's
as
funny.
much as it's great that this film is getting promotion. So
Well, I mean, ultimately, let's talk about the effects. So, I mean, you kind of led us into it there with the way everything looked, and yeah, the effects were, there was a good number of practical effects used, and all of them I thought were very effective, and they were smart enough to know when to pull those effects back at times and things like that. But
some of the makeup work, dude,
incredible.
One character in particular had me squirming and just feeling horrible, honestly. Yeah, it was very, very well done, and just with a little bit of digital enhancement, but you could tell that there was a lot of makeup and prosthetic and work that was done, and so that was, I mean, we got to see some exceptional prosthetics.
The prosthetics were amazing,
and so I think that we can definitely see when terrific work is being done, as it was in Talk to Me. So
agreed 100%. Yeah, the movie is a gem. Like, I will make sure to pick it up in physical media, because I don't want to be beholden to streaming platforms that will take it down eventually. But yeah, Talk to Me is one that you guys
shelves and shelves.
Like, I mean, dude, Aussie horror that makes its way over here is usually very worth your while.
It's something you've said many times on the show.
100%. So make sure you guys check out Talk to Me. It's worth the time. It walks the walk that everyone talks the talk about, and quite honestly, it's probably one of the most original and unique horror movies. Unique in that, horror movies can only be so unique because we've seen most everything at this point. But in and amongst that group, it has the most unique story that I've seen in years. And they did a wonderful job with it, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I think you guys will too.
Agreed. I second that emotion, man.
And we were not paid at all for this.
Donuts, yo. Not
donuts.
Even in donuts.
Not even in donuts. No. Well, we got a sody, and a small popcorn. That's what we got out of it.
That's how they twist our arms.
Indeed. So thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. Again, we're not going to be doing a lot of promotion of upcoming movies. We are simply going to be doing reviews, so that way you guys can make your own decisions. I do think that Talk to Me is outside of the striked studio system anyway, technically. But yeah, we're going to be very diligent about all of that. Yeah, commenters. So
yeah, but this is in theaters July 29th. So
yes,
there you go.
Exactly. So thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Jaime and Fuego.
And remember, stay scared. And this is one that can help you with that.
Truly. Ugh.